I don't know if you can hear us. All right, well, I will go ahead and then get into the training, and then we're a small group, so if there's anything, just unmute yourself and ask a question or give input. It's just a conversation. And then we'll also have question and answers at the end if anybody has anything that we didn't cover throughout. But what I wanted to talk about is just how to leverage today's market specifically for getting luxury business. And luxury, we're going to go into that a little bit in the training. Like, what is that to you and what is that in your market? Because we all don't have luxury like we might think of in like Malibu, LA, Miami, New York type luxury, but there's luxury in every market. So we'll break that down, or even just higher price points, like higher than average price points, which is good because it will lead to higher than average commission checks with the same amount, generally speaking, the same amount of work. So let's get on into it. And like I said, feel free to unmute, ask questions, give input throughout. So as you know me, or hopefully you all know me, my name is Janie Coffey. I'm an introvert. My sister can attest to that. I'm an extreme introvert, but I've had pretty good success with luxury real estate my 20+ year career. I personally live like a non-luxury lifestyle, so I always like to bust that myth too, because a lot of people think they need to live a luxury lifestyle, which you certainly can, but you don't have to be yourself this over a luxury lifestyle person to be a good salesperson in luxury. You just have to be educated and professional and things like that. I also wasn't born with a silver spoon in my mouth, and I don't have a rich spouse or anything like that. I've just kind of worked into the higher price points over my career. And I am now the co-chair of EXP's luxury division. I'm pretty excited about everything we have to offer over there, but this is just about how you, wherever you are in the world, wherever you are in your career, can always implement a little higher priced business into your business. It doesn't have to be all of your business, but maybe one of your pillars of your business is that. Hey, Victor. Hey, Jim. Good to see you guys. Hey, Stephanie. We were saying this is very relaxed today, so anybody can unmute and just ask questions as we go through. So anyway, I'm going to start at the beginning because everybody always says, a lot of times I hear people say, oh, but we don't have luxury in my market. And I kind of want to break through that myth. Luxury, as defined by the Institute of the Luxury Home Marketing Institute, is the top 10% of the market. So if you just take all the sales in the last 6 months, last 12 months, whatever, sort them by price point and just find the top 10%, that break off point, whatever that is in your market, that's luxury for your market. I will tell you that I normally find in most markets, the top 10%, while that seems like it's going to be really high, is actually not as high as we normally expect. So I kind of consider that top 10% more like starter luxury. That's like the golf courses, the move up communities, things like that. When we start to get into the top 5%, let's say, that's when you really start to think, oh, okay, that's a luxury property. And then the top 1% or the top 0.5%, that's the uber luxury, the mega luxury. But a lot of us psych ourselves out because we think only about that top 0.5% of the market as encompassing everything luxury. And that's the myth I'd like to break, to let you know there's actually a pretty big spectrum of what would be considered by anybody's definition of luxury, at least for real estate purposes, as luxury. So in my market in Northeast Florida, that starter luxury price point is around 800,000 to 900,000. And those are, like I said, that's kind of more like your first move up price point from, more like a bread and butter price point. And then in my market specifically, that top 5% is about 1.2 to 1.5. And then the top uber luxury is about 2 to 2.5 million and above. Now, those price points are for me in coastal Florida. That might be very different in central Ohio or central Kentucky. And then it's going to be also very different in LA, New York, Toronto, whatever. So if you just do that exercise yourself in your market, you'll probably discover the price points are a lot more achievable if you're not already kind of playing in that space. And you might already be dealing in that space all the time anyway. So I always like to kind of start any training on luxury with these things because it helps people kind of break through in their mindset the things that might be holding them back. It is important that you start sold sales, not active sales, because especially right now we have a lot of aspirational pricing where sellers have like crazy pants pricing that's just probably not going to sell. Which is a benefit for us because that's why I'm giving the training on how you can leverage today's market to get more business. But anyway, you might want to do this. It might be a good eye-opening experience for you. The next thing I like to do is I do the map view of those properties to kind of figure out where are those properties clustered. And they're normally always clustered around certain types of areas. There might be a built community that's higher priced properties, and you might see all those little dots glowing. You might have some kind of waterfront in your area, or you might have ski properties or golf properties, but there's normally kind of clusters of where they are. And then you can look at that and decide, is there some kind of farm or um, defining thing? Is there like a geographical farm where these properties are? Is there a property type farm? Property type could be, I do a lot of equestrian properties, horse properties. So that's a property type. Those normally are in the higher price points. Ski properties would be a property type. Golf course or golf community or waterfront. Those are property type as opposed to geographic. And then there might even be a people type, although you're not going to be able to tell the people type by the map clusters, but people type could be something like here in Northeast Florida where I am, we have several big training hospitals. So hospitals that are attached to research and things like that. And a lot of doctors who come here to work at those hospitals like to be within a certain drive distance of the hospital. So a people type could be doctors because they have very fixed parameters of where they want to work, or people type could be athletes. Like we have a professional football team here, the Jacksonville Jaguars. They have very kind of specific areas and criteria of where they want to live. They normally want to live within 30 minutes of the arena. They want to live in gated communities. They want to live in, of course, nicer homes. So a people type could be, football players or something like that, whatever is prevalent in your area. So I would look at all this data and kind of figure out what makes the most sense in your market specifically for those starter luxury and uber luxury price points, depending on what you want to go after. The other thing I do when I'm kind of playing in the MLS and kind of getting my bearings, if I haven't yet done this exercise, is I also like to analyze trends in the MLS data. So of those different areas where you see those properties kind of bubbling up and showing up on the map, what's the days on market in, say, this area versus this area? How is it trending? Is it trending up? Is it trending down? Trending up days on market means a direction towards the buyer's market. Trending down would be a direction towards the seller's market. I like to look at list to sales price ratio and compare a couple, expiration rate, things like that. And then I also like to do a SWOT analysis, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. This is specifically if I'm really going to go heavy in a certain area rather than, say, a property type, where I really want to analyze the competition, the turnover, things like that, because I want to make sure that if I'm going to farm an area or go heavy in social media or heavy in video for a certain area, I want to make sure that I'm picking the best area to do that in, meaning I'm not going into an area that turns over very, very slowly or, lasts on the market a lot longer than other areas. So definitely do a little bit of this research. And it's really great to get an understanding of the market that you want to build in before you really start to invest your money and your time and your resources and things like that. So then I want you to think about a fingerprint of your lead generation, and we're going to talk just in a minute about the different type of lead generation for what's going on right now in 2025, because it is definitely a unique market and you have to know kind of what's going on in your specific area. So things in, say, California are very different than, say, North Carolina, very different than, Quebec. or anything like that. So you've got to figure out what's going on in your area. Politics might have something to play in that. Um, certain environmental things, like right now in the west coast of Florida, that was hit so badly last year, in the last couple years, by hurricanes. They have a whole different market than where I am on the east coast of Florida. So you've got to kind of take a look at that. And that's why I'm going to give you a lot of different ideas. And then you pick, say, 2 or 3 that are most aligned in the market that you serve, what's going on where you serve. One, I think everybody should get really good at doing market reports. Once a month, doing a market report so that you become the expert in the data of what's going on. You become the person that people turn to. You become the person that people look for your information when it comes out on a monthly basis, so that they start to see you as the go-to person. The expert in market reports is the easiest way. It doesn't cost any extra money to do the market report, but I'm also going to show you several ways that you can then repurpose that market report to get it out there in a variety of different ways. You might be good at social media, and once you've done your research to figure out which is the area you want to, go hard on, you can do social media with, Instagram or TikTok or video. Levi is doing such a great job with video. Quite a few of our people are doing such a great job with video. You might become a direct mail person, where you're actually going to farm either that area or that property type. It's harder to farm a people type, but you can definitely farm with direct mail, property types, and geolocations. One of my favorite is direct mail farming a property type, because no other agent is going to take the time to distill out a mailing list based on a property type. And what I mean by that: historic properties only, equestrian properties only, ski slope fronting properties only. People become very generic. So this is another way that you can really make yourself a category of one to the people who are seeing you. When you combine that with your market reports, then again, you start to be seen as the go-to person. If you're an open house person, that's a great way. You can start to get into also targeted PPC, like pay-per-click with Google. You can do Facebook ads. You can get into even retargeting if you're good with those type of ads. Like I said, video, networking, sphere of influence, stuff like that. If you are also in that community, servicing that community, or if you're going after a property type, you might be like, here in St. Augustine, we have a lot of waterways. So networking within, say, the yacht club community or the boating community is a great way to also get into that. So here we go. Next is our main lead sources for luxury listings, and I'm going to break it down into 2 groups: possible now business and future business. So possible now business, I think that's probably why everybody jumped on this call. You want to know, hey, what's going on right now? Hold on one second, moving my slide around a little bit so I can see it better. Hold on one sec. Sorry, somehow my slide moved itself on my screen. Okay, so expireds, for sale by owners, those are 2 of the best, lowest hanging fruit for possible now business. And again, deciding to go after the ones once you've done your research, like we spoke about a few slides ago. With expires, are 2 main different ways you can go after them. One would be prospecting and phone calling, and then the other would be mailing based, sending them mail in their mailbox. There's a little bit of kind of a way you can go after expireds digitally with kind of targeted ads, but I've not yet seen that as successful as the mailing based or the calling based. The next thing would be having open houses. Because not only are open houses great sources for buyer leads, they're great sources for seller leads, because a lot of times neighbors, when they're going to list, are going to list in the next few months, they start going around to other open houses because they're trying to get an understanding of the market. And that's an excellent way to get in front of potential sellers. And you can even door knock to invite neighbors to an open house, like go around on a Wednesday, have a flyer, say, hey, I'd just love to invite you to an open house we're having. And if you yourself don't have a listing in that area that you're trying to go after, you might ask a fellow EXP agent who has property there, like we in our team, Gorgeous Florida Homes Network, We give agents the opportunity all the time to host open houses for them. Sorry, my dog's drinking water. He's super loud. So look and see if there's an EXP agent or team in your area and ask them. Or we've even had agents who are not even with our brokerage asked to hold our houses open, and we've allowed it. You have to make a decision. Do you want to reach outside the brokerage? But that's also another opportunity. There are paid lead sources. I have a whole kind of cheat sheet that I'm happy to share once this goes live in the Facebook group. I'm happy to share a link to my cheat sheet of a whole bunch of paid lead sources. A lot of them are the kind of paid lead sources that you don't pay until you close. So it's a referral based, not that you pay up front. I'm not a big fan at all of paying up front for leads, but if you're just getting started and wanting to, grow up in price point or grow into a new area, getting together with some of those paid lead sources that you pay a referral fee at closing might be a really, really great way to do that. But a lot of times those are a lot more warmed up, ready to go leads, especially some of them are coming because they're coming through relocation and things like that. Speaking of relocation is where a company helps pay for the moving expenses for an employee, often a C-suite employee, to move to a new location for work. So those are just inherently often higher price point people. And we have, if you didn't know, we have at EXP the Revenos program, and within the Revenos program is a whole relocation kind of division that you can get your certification in, and then you can become a person who starts to receive leads from the relocation department. So future business. So a certain part of your lead gen needs to be focused on now business or soon to be now business. Those are those things. And then future business. So also right now, I know that things are really slow for a lot of people. A lot of people are holding off putting their homes on the market for a whole variety of ways or a whole variety of reasons. But at some point that is going to open up. So the things that you do now, while a lot of agents are pulling back, a lot of people are actually getting, jobs. They're pulling back on their marketing expenses. They're kind of stepping back. The people who start to either with their time or their money step forward and start to kind of prime their pump for future business in a new area, like a higher price point area, is great. That could be through direct mail farming. Like I said, that can be through the geographic farming or the people type farming. That could be going after expireds, because my whole specialty is expireds. What I've seen, excuse me, a lot right now in 2025, a lot of expires are coming off the market, but far fewer are relisting right now because they're deciding to kind of wait and see. These are often folks that, maybe they listed early 2024, mid 2024. And then we've had in the last 6 months a lot of different things going on that have made people say, I just want to wait and see. So even if you're not getting now business from expireds, those are great people to be putting into a direct mail campaign where you're sending them something like a group of 25, a group of 50, as that grows, something every 2 weeks, so that you're getting in front of them, so that later when they decide to relist, when they finally feel like, okay, now's the time that it makes sense to relist, you are the person who's been showing up in front of them. We've seen a lot of that. I don't have the numbers right off the top of my head, but we're up in the number of properties expiring because they're not selling, but then we're down considerably in those that are actually relisting. So those are great people to get in front of and start to nurture at, like I said, priming the pump. Starting to build out social media around that area that you want to focus in, or that people type that you want to focus in. Starting to create video. Like I said, Levi Lakasic has some great video training, both free and paid for program through Elevate Coaching at EXP. There's tons of resources for video for real estate agents. Building out an email newsletter as you start to get people in front of you, networking, blog, website, SEO, PPC, that kind of stuff is like your future thing. Again, weaving in your market report information, and that's what I want to get into next here, is I truly believe, and I've seen it happen over and over and over, that people who spend the time to analyze the market in that kind of niche area that they want to serve, and every single month come out with their market report and get it out there in a multitude of ways. And I'm going to show you a whole list of different ways that you can get it out, because maybe you have what, 30, 45, 60 minutes per month to analyze the market and what that means. But now you've got all that great content that very, very few agents are actually spending the time to generate. Once you start getting that out there, you will definitely start to become seen as the it person, the professional, the expert in your market. So this is an example of a Instagram carousel that we created for our team, where each agent has their own area that they serve, and we spell it out here. So this, for example, is Karen. She's on the call right now, where she's serving St. Augustine, this specific zip 32080. And then we created a swipe file where every month they can come out with, how are things changing? How are the total properties that are active changing? Are they going up? Are they going down? How are the homes sold? The number of homes sold for the previous month, are they going up or going down? How's the average sold price? How's the average list price? And then they just mark it with a little indicator that's rising or falling. And then over here, she explains and what that means. And the reason we always put and what that means is not, we're real estate professionals, but the average consumer, if you told them the DOM was going up or DOM was going down, they'd have no idea what that means, like what that literally means to them. Even if you spelled it out, the days on the market is increasing, the days on the market is decreasing. The average person doesn't understand what that means. But if they're in the market of considering to sell or considering to buy, and you break it down, hey, the number of sales is going up or inventory is going up, what that means if you're considering selling, what that means if you're considering buying. So she spells that out all here, and then she has her contact information. That's kind of the main thing of what I mean by creating a market report. But then once you do that, there's so many ways you can repurpose that. This is Janine. She's a team member of ours, and she actually makes a monthly video where she kind of looks like a newscaster, and she presents like just a 5-minute overview of what's going on in the market. Um, you can embed that into your blog. Now, I have here KV Core, but you might now be using, who knows, Lofty or Close or Follow Up Boss or whatever website you're using. So you can embed that video once you make it. You can put it in your social media. You can drop it into YouTube, both in a long form and a short form, because even Instagram now and TikTok are becoming searchable from the search engines. So having it in there, writing a good caption below it on social media is becoming searchable by the bigger search engines. And of course, YouTube has been searchable for a long, long time. So this is a great, great way to get yourself out in front. You could be doing the luxury market report for your area, or the golf course community report for your area, whatever it is that you decide that you're going to specialize in. We also have made door hangers. So if you're starting to farm an area, or if you're getting ready to host an open house, Vistaprint, they're not cut like this in this crescent shape. That's just part of the design for my presentation. But Vistaprint and a bunch of other sources will make, excuse me, door hangers where they have the hole cut off and a little tear right there, so you can hang them on a door, again, for an area that you're farming, an area that you have a new listing at, an area you're hosting an open house, where we have contact information on the agent on the front. And then again, that same content, homes listed, homes sold on the back. These are so inexpensive, super, super inexpensive. That's direct mail marketing, direct mail marketing. And these are a bunch of different ways that you can repurpose those market reports. Like I said, making a video, there's so much you can do with a video. Embedding the video, putting the link in your video on your blog, like every time, if you're a blogger or you have an email newsletter, putting a link to every month the most recent market report is huge. Being SEO friendly, of course, in your text and your titles, using it on Instagram, using it in all the variety of your social medias, doing door hangers, having a printout of your thing in any open houses that you do. You can do a postcard to your direct mail farm. You can even send letters. There are mailing companies that do letters where it actually puts it in a letter. And I've seen agents be super successful where their main source of business was mailed letters of market reports. It's such an easy way to start to become seen as the absolute real estate expert in your area when you're sharing data and you're sharing what data means to prospective sellers or prospective buyers. Sending to the media, like actually the media, like your local news, your local news, TV news, your local papers, they love to have this information and they might start quoting you. They might even ask you to be an ongoing contributor by giving them the market report or the luxury market report in your area. Breaking up your videos into shorts for YouTube's, Instagram, Facebook, things like that. So here are my calls for the very best sources of luxury business, specifically luxury listings in 2025. These are the lowest hanging fruit. And once you've picked your area and done the analysis to make sure that where you're spending your money and your time and your efforts is the best place to do it, I would be looking again at expireds. And even if expireds are not relisting as quickly as they used to, that is a great group of people to start sending farming information to. Just listed, just sold, the monthly market report, open house, whatever you want to send, but send to them because they've already raised their hand and said they wanted to sell, but they might be taking just a pause right now while they wait for discussions about tariffs to sort out, discussions about other things to sort out, figure out what all this new legislation means to real estate, especially for wealthy people. There's a lot of things in the most recent legislation that was passed that is beneficial to wealthy people. So they might be ready to start thinking again about going back on the market. Yes, old expireds too. Absolutely, Lars. Absolutely. Go ahead. Did you want to say something? Oh. I thought, well, I'm gonna wrap up real fast and then we will open it up, absolutely open it up to ideas, conversations, things like that. For sale by owners, absolutely great. Again, this is the lowest hanging fruit. These are people who've raised their hand and said that they want to sell. And we all know that for sale by owners, actually a huge percentage, I want to say it's like 85% or something, end up listing with an agent when they realize it's not as easy as they thought. There's a lot of things you can do to kind of build rapport, build a relationship with for sale by owners. So when they do make that decision, they're turning to you. One of those, again, that could be giving them market reports, that could be giving them safety tips, that could be all kinds of things, all kinds of things. Divorce are people that when they're divorcing, they don't care if it's an up market, a down market, a sideways market. They often need to sell the home as part of the divorce thing. So divorce is a whole niche that is fairly insulated to the changes of a fluctuating market. Same thing with probate and same thing with downsizing. So probate is when somebody's passed away, and downsizing or right sizing or silver real estate, those three things, divorce, probate, and downsizing, are things that they don't really change if the market softens. They still are going to get a divorce. They are still going to have to go through probate or sell if somebody's passed away. People decide to downsize regardless of what the market's doing. So if you haven't thought about making one of those one of your specialties or one of your kind of lead generation buckets, that is a great, great place to spend your time. Just pick one, maybe pick one that's the most aligned with the area that you're thinking about focusing on. So if I were thinking about focusing on, say, a neighborhood, excuse me, a neighborhood that, let's say, has very large homes, it's 20, 30, 40 years established, I might start to add in a layer of downsizing as a specialty niche within that. Because a lot of times when people were in their 30s and their 40s and they bought large homes in this big community because they had children to raise and things like that, by the time they're 55, 60, 65, 70, they're starting to want to have a smaller home. They're starting to want to have a one-story home. So see what kind of of these things might match up with the area or the people type or the property type that you're thinking about, delving into. The next thing is relocation. So relocation, like I said, that's when people are moving because of their job, both relocation on the buy side and relocation on the sale side. You can work on that on your own, but you can also work on that by getting your certification through Revenos. If I have an X here, that means EXP has some kind of program that dovetails with that type of lead generation and lead source. So if you go to Revenos, I don't think I have the link here, but if you go to Revenos, you can get that certification and start working on that. And then there's another thing within Revenos that you can actually start to build a whole relocation referral business where you might make a relationship, let's say at a certain hospital. I don't think they call hospital chains, but lines of hospitals where I wish I could remember this name. You guys can drop it in the chat if you know what I'm talking about. Oh, Dave, so about probate, probably the best person within our group to teach about probate is Aaron Novello. I'll drop that in the chat here. He's done a lot of business in probate, and he has free and paid for training as well as resources and everything like that. Um, I love to have something that's insulated from an up or a down market, at least insulated from a down market. Again, probate, divorce, downsizing for that. The next really hot source of higher price listings in a down market, depending on how down it is, it's definitely down for us here in Florida, is second homes and Airbnbs. Because a lot of people who um, purchase those types of homes, if the market starts to soften, they might not be able to continue to float that second home, or the Airbnb business has softened up in the market where they are. So looking, if you're in an area that has a strong second home and Airbnb market, that might be an excellent source of business for you. Oh, thanks. Lars dropped the link in there. And if you are Express Offers certified, again through EXP, they have a whole add-on thing, and I can't remember off the top of my head, that's specific for short-term rentals, where you can help, which you get Express Offer certified. If you start to market to short-term rentals, they have like a whole resource to get your short-term rentals in front of prospective buyers who are buying short-term rentals at large scale. So that's something to look into as well. And then there are specialty niches that are tied to people's professions that often are also aligned with higher priced properties. Physicians, athletes, different things like that who have to move anyway because of their job. Again, going back to their relocation, but they're not waiting for the market to change to decide if they're going to sell or buy, because they're normally moving with their job. So if you start to build out a people niche, that's another type of business lead gen that's fairly insulated from a softening market, because if an athlete's being traded, he's being traded or she's being traded, period. It doesn't matter. So these are kind of like my top 8 picks for the best sources of luxury listing leads in today's market. And you can take that and tie it back into the research that I talked about in the beginning of the training and figure out what is most aligned with your specific area, your own personal interests, your own personal kind of secret sauce of how you like to do business and how you like to work with people. And excuse me, and see if one or two of these kind of top sources might dovetail with those types that I talked about earlier. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen, and then we can open it up for conversations, questions, anything like that. And just love to see what you guys have. Oops, let me take my hand down. Didn't mean to put that up. Lars, you have anything you want to add or share?
Yeah, I was just knowing how you went about establishing your luxury business and your when you first entered your market, and direct mail being a part of it. I worked with a guy in Silicon Valley once that went after expireds, and you would know this better than I would, Janie, but it seems to me that like the relative effort you put in here, given the potential size of these commission checks, what he put together was a very elaborate, he FedExed packages out with these binders that had like a video inside. And like I mean, he probably spent like, I want to say like $75 per mailer, but like ultimately it was like the highest return you could ever get. But it is that kind of thing. Like be aware that direct mail should be a piece of the equation. And, you know, in a 3 or 4 sequence mailer, you should be able to demonstrate, if they spread everything you sent them in those 3 or 4 mail pieces, they should be like, man, I really need to bring Janie in to talk to her. Look at the marketing pieces, look at the, whatever you send them. So I don't know if you have any comments on direct mail.
Yeah, no, I love direct mail. That was, I, for those of you who haven't heard the story, I moved to Newmarket 10 years ago, didn't know a single person. Um, Not like the people that I met were the people at the brokerage that I joined, so they weren't gonna be buying anything from me. And I became the number 9 agent in my MLS as a solo agent within 2 years. And I did that specifically by mailing to, expired sellers. And because I didn't want to call, I'm not a phone prospector. Um, but it definitely works. It is a longer thing, but the reason I did it that way, I had that goal to hit the top 10 in my MLS within 3 years. That was my goal. And I realized to do that, I needed listings because listings are so much more leveraged than buyers. I needed higher price points. So that's why I went after luxury rather than average price point. And I specifically went after expired because by then they were already kind of worn out on pricing. And what I learned is luxury expired sellers normally relist, they take longer off the market than average price point homes. Um, and because they take longer off the market, you have more time to mail them things. And I found that my average number of touch points to people was about 14 or 15 before they called me, which meant I did get some calls after 1 or 2 items, but I also got some calls after 20, 25 items. But the beauty of that long kind of mailing, and that's what I was saying, I would be, if you really wanted to build a long business, start making a list of recently expired and let's say expired over the past 2 years who haven't relisted, and just do a direct mail farming, even not a one-to-one, meaning you're not hand addressing it to them, but you're sending it out through express stocks or something like that every 2 weeks. Because what I found is the more pieces they got from me, the more likely they were to just call and say, hey, I've received so much from you. I call it the slow listing presentation because they've received, like you're saying, Lars, after they receive 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 pieces, and each one is nailing a pain point they had with the past listing term and the solution that you offer. It becomes just this slow listing presentation. So there becomes a tipping point when they're like, oh my gosh, I'm ready to list with the person. So the more they receive from me, the more likely it became a come list me call where I didn't even know them. But they're like, hey, can you just come over and list my house? You've demonstrated that you really understand this. You understand the market. You understand how to market luxury listings. You understand the frustration I had, which is often communication, meaning the last agent often didn't do a great job of communicating. And yes, I do also send a what I call the big fat package on the first day. That's not everything I would share in a listing presentation because I still want to have something great on the for the listing appointment, but enough of a teaser. I kind of caught like Hansel and Gretel breadcrumbs. Um, and there are people that, like the guy you're talking about in Silicon Valley, go all out with super fancy ones. Um, it's a great way to build business. I think everybody should do it, but that's my own opinion. But I think mailing to expireds at the higher price points often converts better than calling, because as you get up in price point, people want to be driving the decision themselves rather than being called. Whereas a lot of times people at more average price points, they need to move, they need to sell for one reason or another. So that's why prospecting on the phone works so well with average to maybe starter luxury. But the higher you go, that mailing program actually converts, I find, really, really well. So hopefully that shared a little bit of what you wanted me to share about. And there's so much you can do now. You can drive them to like a website just to learn about what you have to do. And then you can drop a pixel if you're into retargeting, Google or Facebook retargeting, drop a pixel on that website. And if you can somehow get them to click on your website with a QR code or something like that, then you can follow them around, talking about your success stories with your expireds listings that you listed and sold, talk about your marketing plan, stuff like that. So there's so much to do with expired listings, especially right now. So questions, input, anybody?
I have a question.
Yeah.
How do you get the news to cover any of your interesting listings?
Yeah, so we actually have the news is going to be covering one, if not two of our listings coming up, the local news. So it's easier to get the news to cover your listings if there's something special about them. So that's one reason I always talk about building out a niche. I think it's really very advantageous to build out a niche for real estate agents. So my niche, one of my main niches has been historic luxury properties. So they often have a big story around them, a big history around them. They're often beautiful. And the news, especially your local news, both your TV news as well as your journalists, your print journalists, they're always needing new stories. And there's always going to be normally a real estate journalist or a real estate writer. So you can start to build up a relationship with them. And when you get these special listings, give them the first opportunity to write a story about it or put it out and stuff like that. So it is a relationship building experience, but I've been very, very successful in getting my luxury historic properties covered in local and national news. Because I'm always just keeping that relationship going, answering questions if they need about the general. And that's goes back to why I was saying market reports can be so valuable, because you can start to nurture that relationship by giving them market reports. They might have you come to the studio and do a news segment. So it's long-term relationship building with the local real estate journalists. So
Is there
anybody
any,
else? Oh, go
I
ahead.
do Paro, it was help a reporter out. And if you had some kind of niche, like I do interior design as well, they're no longer around. Is there anything else around?
Quoted replaced Taro. It's a little bit different. It's Q. Everybody should sign up with Quoted. You can sign up for free. I'm going to drop the link in the, at least the name of it in the chat. So Quoted is awesome. It's where reporters put out a call when they need somebody to give a quote or give insight on something. So Haro, which Karen was referring to, help a reporter out, was free for sources. We all would be sources, and we could answer requests unlimited in a month. And then if the reporter picked you, they would contact you. Karen got quite a few articles, was included in quite a few articles. I've been included in quite a few articles over the years with Haro. Quoted is different, that you can do for free. You're allowed to answer 2 pitch requests a month. And then you can pay an upgraded fee and have unlimited pitch requests. So for example, our own John Mikish lives in Montana, and recently I saw a request in Quoted for somebody who wanted to interview somebody about real estate in Montana, and I sent that to John. Recently I saw in Quoted somebody needed some insight in downsizing in real estate. So I sent that to one of our team members who specializes in downsizing real estate. So everybody should sign up for Quoted for the free version, and just keep your eye on the requests as they come out. And a lot of these can be like top tier national news media. It can be very, very, and once you start to develop relationships with those reporters, they'll often come back to you over and over and over the years. So a couple reporters I've given quotes or been included in articles they've written, included for the Barron's and the Wall Street Journal and different things like that, because I built and maintained a good relationship with those reporters ongoing after the first time. So, all right, well, unless anybody has anything else, I think we're it. I hope you got at least 1 or 2 actionable items from our training today. And I appreciate you choosing to spend some time with us today. And we're really trying to make this collaborative call something where we can all come together and share and learn and grow as a group. So, all right. Thank you guys.
Thanks,
Bye.
Janie.
Bye.